So I had this real hollow feeling at that moment. It was, what are dreams? Dreams are for the lonely. And I started to, the nuance of dreams giving people purpose. It's a very human thing. This idea of like to dream, to try to control your fate. It's like this is like a heist film. You know what I mean? A heist on fate. And I started to see an idea, combining this feeling with this player. I go to my writing partner, Ron Bronstein, and I say, hey, I barge in. I want to make a movie about the world's greatest ping pong player. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In this episode, a young man who no one respects goes to hell and back in pursuit of greatness in director Josh Safdie's sports drama, Marty Supreme. The film follows Marty Mauser, a cocky and ambitious shoe salesman who dreams of pursuing greatness. Using his table tennis skills to hustle his way towards the top, he quickly rises in the ranks with the singular goal of escaping his mundane life. Marty Supreme is Safdie's solo directorial debut. His other credits, co-directed with his brother Benny, include the feature films Uncut Gems, Good Time, Heaven Knows What, and Daddy Longlegs. Following a screening of the film at the DGA Theater in Los Angeles, Safdie spoke with director Ben Affleck about filming Marty Supreme. Listen on for their spoiler-filled conversation.
I just actually watched the movie. I wouldn't have done this customarily. This is probably a bad thing to say, but I just watched the movie today because I know what a great filmmaker Josh is, and he's a friend and also a guy that I would like to work for, so I feel like I have to do him favors. And I watched the movie, and then I watched it again, and I just want to be really upfront because I feel like it's important to know that where the person's coming from and what the biases are. Like I didn't like the movie. I don't think the movie is very good. I don't. I would not say it's excellent. I would say, honest to God, to me, this is a great film. I thought the movie was great, and I really was expecting something interesting, although I was like, all right, so it's a ping pong, Fran Drescher, Gwyneth Paltrow, what, in the 50s? I really had no idea. I hadn't seen any of this stuff. And it just blew me away. So I know for those of you who are allergic to obsequiousness and sycophancy and Hollywood mutual, you probably should leave, because I have to say I was floored by the movie.
Thank you, Ben.
And I just want to ask you to start with, because I watched it again because I was trying to figure this out. It seemed like such an unusual array of a constellation of things to put together for a movie. Where did this come from? What was the genesis of this?
I would say that it starts with the journey of my last film, Uncut Gems. It was a 10-year journey. You know this. You have this dream, you have this fixation of wanting to see this thing through, even though no one believes in it, and it hardens you. And it makes every moment that dream isn't realized, all the people who don't believe in you, it's humiliation. So it makes you want it even more. And that took me all the way up through production. And you wake up every morning and you have a purpose. Dreams are incredible in that way. And, I'm about, I don't know, maybe in post, my wife, who's a producer on the film, she bought me a book about this table tennis player who said Confessions of a Table Tennis Champion and Hustler. So she's like, oh man, my husband's going to love this. So she's flipping through and she's seeing all these like misfits, rail thin misfits in these smoky table tennis parlors. She didn't even know that there could be a table tennis parlor. Buys me the book. She says, honey, look, I know you're busy, but eventually you'll read this. I'm still super fixated on the dream, and I read it, and it does. I immediately call my uncle Johnny. I was like, Johnny, didn't you play with these guys in 1952? He's like, oh my God, Dickie Miles, Saul Schiff, Bob Guskoff, Marty Reisman. I knew all of them. I knew Lawrence, who played by George Gervin in the movie. He was the real Lawrence, was the first black business owner in the Times Square district. Footnote of history, seminal person. Just like the Japanese player in the movies, was a footnote of Japanese history. Seminal person, though. Japanese people don't even know that story. He tells me about Dickie Miles coming over for Shabbat dinner, clearing the table, putting books in the middle, and then playing ping pong after dinner. And he said, he's like, these guys were outcasts. They were like the 40 blocks south, the Beats and all of them. There was art. The end of the thing, there was a glory to that. There was no glory to ping pong, zero. He said no one respected it. It was the most. He said it was a newish sport. It wasn't new, but it was like, people were talking about it a little bit, almost like maybe pickleball now, but less. Pickleball actually has more respect than ping pong. It's called ping pong. You know what I mean? So and it's a word that you associate more with chaos than you do with the sport. I played it a lot when I was a kid. I had ADD. It was really good for concentration and focus. You have to have incredible precision and incredible determination and focus. So it was good for me. Anyway, so I finished the movie. And I'm at like a Q&A. 10 years you chase this thing. Someone asked the most innocent question, what's next? It's totally fine to ask that question. I started to cry. I had never thought about anything because it was about the journey. It was never about actually achieving this thing. Someone once told me they bought me a bottle of champagne and a cigar. And they said, after I think it was like Good Time or something. And they said, here you go. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. He's like, you're not going to drink? You're not going to smoke? I said, I'll save it for the right celebration. It'll be in my fridge until the day I die. I want it to be like next to my my tombstone. So I had this real hollow feeling at that moment. It was, what are dreams? Dreams are for the lonely. And I started to, the nuance of dreams giving people purpose. It's a very human thing. This idea of like to dream, to try to control your fate. It's like this is like a heist film. You know what I mean? A heist on fate. And that's the urgency of it. So I started to see, and I started to see an idea, combining this feeling with this player. I go to my writing partner, Ron Bronstein, and I say, hey, I barge in. I want to make a movie about the world's greatest ping pong player. And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's like, I have no interest. And then, you start to, our writing processes, I know you've had done a lot of writing with a partner, and
well, it was mostly me, but yeah, no, go ahead. You see, it's a real partnership.
So you know how it is. It's all about dialogue, recalling things from your own life, trying to understand why something popped into your head, mining it. Ronnie and I are pretty brutal with each other when it comes to writing. And then as the director, every idea that we discuss, an idea can be great, but I have to see it. Because if I can't see it, then we can't produce it. Then after I see it, I have to think as a producer, can we pay for that? Can I actually figure out a way to get a dog in a tub looking like it's, freaking out? Can I get a baby to stop crying at the sight of his own father? The connection of two souls, seeing yourself. So that's the writing part becomes, the director side of it becomes complicated sometimes.
You're talking about those two. There are so many kind of like what would, in my view, be extraordinary standalone. That movie you have to see for the dog in the bathtub sequence, for the hustle at the pool hall sequence, for the final game in Japan sequence, for the, for the scene where, it's hard to even sort of collect them all in this movie. And one of the things I noticed, and I feel like there's more to talk about than we possibly have time or certainly patience for from these good people, but I'll be here for 4 hours listening. But there's a couple of things I want to ask you. One is, you did a lot of things that I know because I try to do them all the time. And the order of magnitude of difficulty to cast a movie so that every single performance, even down to background artists with no lines, I have never seen a movie where every character that you saw on camera was so three-dimensional from my view. And I know, particularly given this to the DGA, and that's a responsibility that's shared with from casting, obviously, then to the ADs. With you treated everybody who was on camera with the same degree of importance, in my view, and I think that's atypical. But it paid massive dividends because it's so authentically real a world that I never questioned it. And everybody I didn't know who was an actor, who wasn't, which is exactly what it should be. Can you talk a little bit about how you cast and how you viewed that?
Yeah. I mean, you'd bring, I don't care if you've been in 100 movies or you've never been in a movie, you've never even having a photo taken of you. And I don't care if you have one line or one featured close-up, or you have a million lines in the movie, they're all important. I spend a lot of time writing character backstories for every character, needing to know what's at least before and after the scene that they appear in. In particular, the background, I mean, look, the principal cast and everybody, that's just fun for me. They're all stars to me. Every single person's a star. If I'm going to cast you, I'm bringing the baggage that you bring, and you want to work with that. Because ultimately filmmaking is you're capturing the portraits of the human souls in the movie. You just want to color it and work with the person to try to express themselves through that character. But they're expressing themselves. And I don't care, again, I don't care how many lines you have. And even the extras. Yeah, we had about 3,800 extras in the movie. And we cast all of them. Every single one of them.
Cast all the extras.
Yeah. I mean, we had obviously a casting director and extra cast, but we went through, I made sure that each and every person was appropriate, because I've watched period films where someone takes me out of it. And I also know, and my AD department was led by Jeremy Marks and Doug Torres when we were in Japan, they understood that at any moment I might pull a extra, you know how it is. You're doing a scene. The actor, I don't put marks down. Timmy wants to do this thing, and I'm going to build around that and sculpt it around that movement. Next thing you know, you have 3 more people speaking. Now, my producers, Eli Bush and Anthony Katagas, who are here, that's, every once in a while they come to me on like the 40th day and they say, no more adding lines to extras, no more Taft-Hartling. And I said, why? He's like, well, you're over the limit of 70. So I was like, okay, no more lines for extra people. And then the last day, literally getting in line to, one of the older Jewish women during the fight. That was the last thing we did. It was a 23-hour day. It was a good bonus day for everybody. But you know what? I have in the audience here, I have Colin Anderson. Colin, where are you? Standing there? You in here? Hey, it's Colin. Colin's Colin's the camera operator. And everybody in this film, he's like the human... We were really all in sync. That's the job of a director, is to you have a passion and you want that passion to bleed into everybody else. And that, again, includes some of the extras who feel like they're there. They are the stars of the movie. And I make them feel like it. That's not because I'm going out of my way to do it, because I genuinely feel that way. Tyler, the creator, when he showed up at that bowling alley, he was blown away by all the extras. He went and took pictures of everybody. So Colin, when Darius, Kanji, and we were talking about, we were trying to do a different movie, and we kept saying, we need Colin. I love Steadicam, and Colin.
Always take Colin from me. And we have to battle for Colin.
Colin,
a few secret people.
There's a handful, but Colin's the one everybody wants because he's a human dolly. He's just, and his instincts are great. And you work really, really closely with the camera operator. Any director in this room knows that. But he's tied to Marty, so it's like, and he is in this world and he's moving through some really small crevices like Marty the Mouse. And he knows, okay, I have this face here. And every once in a while, Colin will surprise me because he'll see a face that's, incredible. We were shooting in the Lower East Side and we didn't use it, but Jack Fisk to make that pet store, I wanted it to feel like when you walked in, you smelled the pet store, you heard the pet store. We had 87 live animals in that pet store. And you heard them. They were bad for sound. My poor sound team, like the bowling alley, everyone's bowling the whole time. Everyone's playing ping. He's like, it's not going to be good for sound. I was like, don't worry about it. Can we hear them? Yeah, we could technically hear them. And then I have a great sound mixer who's helped me, the re-recording mixer. But when we were shooting there, Jack Fisk, the legendary production designer, who I, like Marty, convincing Kay to come to the semifinals. I had to do that with Jack. I feel like I had to do that with everybody, but that it was like a courtship, and we were all, at the, I don't want to sound corny, but it was romantic. Every interaction in this movie was very romantic for me. And, so Colin sees that Jack put 15 puppies in the window, and they pissed all over the shredded newspaper. And I look down at the monitor and I see that Colin's getting this beautiful shot of these kids. The background on this movie was so special. And we had this great document by Ken Jacobs, who just passed away, and he filmed in 1954 a home movie on 16 of Orchard Street, and tons. You could just feel the life. And I made every department study that 20-minute movie. They all knew it, and we would come up with little stories. So whenever we were shooting on the street, there was real life we were trying to recreate in our own organic way. And it was just great to see all of my department heads really, from top to bottom, we were all really chasing to recreate life so that we could feel like it's improvised.
I think, and it shows. And yes, you have Jack Fest, great production designers of all time, and Darius and Colin and Ian Kincaid. I mean, Kay Giorgio. You had the world's greatest crew, and I
was very lucky.
I know how meaningful that is. It's the same. I'm obsessed with you've got to get these great people who are also filmmakers. In my view, that's the thing about Colin, is that he's there understanding the movie and thinking about the movie and thinking about what you're thinking about and caring about that. And he's an artist.
Yes,
and,
for sure.
And you've got performers, who are, as you say, all the way from people with, little screen time to obviously Timothée Chalamet is phenomenal in the movie. Gwyneth is extraordinary in the movie. I mean, the guy Lloyd who opens the safe, I'm obsessed with that guy. He's 3 minutes of genius. It's like Brando. You know what I mean? It's incredible. The performances across.
He's a horse bettor from, he's like one of the great horse bettors in Brooklyn. And he gets cast because Ratso, who plays the uncle, who's a guy who...
There's actors in this movie named Ratso, right?
Ratso Sloman. Yeah, he's an amazing writer who I put in a small thing. But the backstory for the shop is that his uncle was a degenerate. It's in the family, degeneracy. And he was a really big horse bettor. And someone went into debt with him. So I don't know why I'm talking about this, but the backstory is that he was really into the horse track, and that's how through debt he ended up getting this store. And Jen Vendetti, my casting director, we worked very closely together. She hears that and she's like, "Oh, I have to go to the horse track to find this guy." So to find whoever works for him, and we find Lloyd. Ralph is his real name, Ralph Colucci, and he was incredible. But he was a unique person that you want to align with and bring his energy to the part.
But granted, right? I think it's very self-effacing, and I appreciate it that yes, you are a full top to bottom with extraordinary performers, extraordinary crew, a lot of artists, but they'll all tell you the same thing that I'll tell you, and from my capacity as an actor, is that you work with a lot of different directors, and the movies don't always end up like this. They don't have the unified integrity of this personal, intentional, universal story that, by the way, you step through what you think it's one little, A24 movie about the kid in the neighborhood, and then you're in London. Then is this a love story about this young guy, this older woman, or is this is this a story about anti-Semitism? Is this a story about, trying to come home? Is this a story trying to reconcile, the tension between who he was when he, in this neighborhood and how he grew up and stepping out into the big world and encountering all these larger than life figures, or is it at the end, I'm like, this is Rocky, this movie, right?
It's Rocky, yeah.
To do that, and there's always, you want to know how and why. I'm consumed with that, and I understand everybody around you is brilliant. I understand the actors were great, and it wouldn't be possible without that. But that being said, can you talk about a unifying approach or philosophy that for even with the actors, for example, I view it as my responsibility to create an environment where they can be successful. How did you do that? How did you allow and make room for all these people to make these contributions and to make contributions that were congruent with what you were trying to do?
It's very much that you establish the world, you establish the environment. You make sure that every single actor, again, I don't care how many lines they have, know exactly who they are. And when I say know who they are, where they were born, how they grew up, pivotal moments in their life. Oftentimes I find, totemic moments of life development can help define somebody in their entirety. Like with Odessa, I said to her that, when they were in 7th grade, Marty, they've known each other for so long. Marty, they go to see King Kong, and right before the movie starts, he turns to her and says, what's your dream? She never even thought that it was possible to have a dream. She's like, I don't know. What's your dream? He says, I'm going to be the greatest table tennis player in the world first. And I haven't thought about my second dream yet. And she's like, wow, 2 dreams. And then the movie finishes and she says, I want to be Fay Wray. So she has this dream is inspired. So her hearing that, allows her to go into the scene with the black eye and be like, she's an actor. It's Bonnie and Clyde Steen. She's bigger than Marty, and she can be the actress. He says it. He goes, wow, that was really good. And she's like, thanks. And she is. She's great in it. She's better than Marty. So you give these actors these little things that allows them to really know their character in a deep way. And it's oftentimes little details that helps them.
You may think that's little. For a lot of people, it would be enough to write one great movie, not to have to write great shit for your backstory. They're kind of like, that's your job, pal. I mean, but it's what helpful. Is it inside you that makes you want to do that additional work where a lot of people will be like, this is enough. This is good. This is what I'm trying to do.
I don't know. I want real life on screen. I try to chase it, and I try to, and even when I'm, Timmy was so great. Timmy's phenomenal in the film, and he has an incredible acting style. He did, a lot with that. He did mostly what's on the page and the things that he brought to it. He brought to it through, his own life. We were talking about like expressing himself in the cracks, but, he did 30 takes sometimes, and I don't normally do that. In this movie, I was just chasing something that's of life, and I feel like the only way I can get that from people I'm working with is by trying to give them lives. And, someone like Kevin O'Leary, like Mr. Wonderful, who plays Milton, what you're doing in casting him and everybody, you're, like I was saying, we bring an entire life. You want these characters to be the people before they open their mouths. You want to see what second they appear, you're like, I know that guy. And what's great about Kevin and the Milton character is he's the bad guy. But he doesn't really do anything that's bad until, he makes a latent anti-Semitic comment, and then he proves to be like a pretty cold corporate colonialist carpetbagger,
Doesn't sound terrific. Yeah.
He turns into that. But in the beginning, you just hate him. You hate him because what? He's married to the movie star. There's no reason to hate the guy, but you hate Kevin O'Leary. Like that's the guy on the show that you watch, and he's an asshole. And you're bringing that to it. And even people who don't watch Shark Tank, he just exudes that. And it's great. And that's what he knew he was getting into. I told him, I want the world's biggest asshole. But I get on a Zoom with him, and he has no interest. He's a billionaire. He's no interest in acting. So that's the Marty moments where you're like, okay, go into Gwyneth's house. She's like, we're tired. What do you want? What do you want from me? All right, well, I have this 3-page character backstory that's inspired loosely by Ruby Keeler. You start walking her through that. And these like stolen, weird, unknown histories of people that latch onto that. And it works with, even with Lloyd, like talk to him about his life, learn these things. I work with my casting director. She does these great interviews, and you get these little pieces on them. You're like, oh, I know this person now. Then you can talk to them and you can try to milk it through it, the moments, and you try to change the script a little bit to make it fit to them. So when they're on the set, this thing feels supernatural.
It's really interesting. One of the things you describe, and I think probably a lot of the people here are familiar with this, is the tension between what you feel is right for the movie or what you care about and what you're always told you can and can't do. Like your story, I'm always amazed. I'm like, this fun guy's thinking about the Taft-Hartley and the sound. Because when I watch the movie, it seems to me so clear. Like I imagine you on the set, not even like totally oblivious to any of that stuff. And what I think when
oblivious in what, right? To the rules?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the very
producer too.
Well, listen,
but apparently I'm hard to produce sometimes. I want the world.
So, right, exactly. So how do you balance that when it's like, okay, this is important and that's important? Like, I feel like a principle.
The garbage was important on the street. Jack and I and Adam Willis, was the set decorator, I went nuts about the garbage. It's like, I hate seeing fake garbage. Not every garbage is just crumpled up paper. I can't stand that. So Adam was like, oh, Josh is really going on me 3 times now about the garbage. I better, I said, we have to have a meeting about the garbage. He's like, okay. Shows up.
There's people in a lot of movies, if you do that, they'd be like, this director's crazy. But we should fire him. He was obsessed with the garbage. But you're right.
And he's like, we're going to wet the garbage so that when we throw it on the ground, it's going to stick to the concrete in a way that maybe it was there and there was a rainfall. And all of a sudden I was like, okay, I like that. When he drops into the garbage behind the Chinese restaurant, Jack read that they would kill the ducks in the back of the courtyards back there, right behind the buildings. We got ducks. There's ducks there. You don't see them. You hear them, kind of. We actually had to add it. We couldn't have smoke.
Almost smell them in that scene.
But like Timmy was like, are those real ducks in the cage? I said, yeah. He goes, whoa. So I can't land over there. I said, no, don't hit the ducks. But
we just can't put that thing on the end of the movie that says no animals.
You know how many animals we had in this movie? The sea lion. You know how hard it is to direct a sea lion? We had to do 4 months. 4 months of
They're notoriously difficult, of course.
And the 4 months they had to train to have it hit the ball back. We're shooting it. They say after one take, it doesn't want to do this movie anymore. The sea lion decides to get up onto the ping pong table and turn around. It's not going to this huge thing. Done. No more ping. We only have one shot of the table tennis. The shot of I had to get very creative. That's when you have to get creative. But making a movie like this in 46 days, you have no choice. 162.
I didn't want you to tell that story to make everybody look bad.
4 days in Japan, 46 days in New York. I mean, Colin will tell you what those 46 days were like. I mean, every day is just, I come in with my slips that have like, oh, wow, there's not that many shots today. Flip it over. Oh, okay.
You storyboard this or you're just too shotless?
I story about maybe 20% of the movie. I do a pretty intense shot listing. And, again, you try to, I'm like, I'll find a centimeter of space and I'll build a custom couch for that centimeter and jam it in there.
How much did it help you starting from where you started? Because I feel like I really identify with that notion of the job is here, the movie's mine to make, and I got to make it with sort of what I have here. And I remember also showing up in Hollywood, having done these little movies and then going out to these big movies. And it was like, I feel like I make 100 movies with what we're doing, but I think it really pays dividends because it feels like, I don't know how big the box was, but I'm sure it wasn't big enough. But this movie looks like it's missing nothing, compromises on nothing.
And wouldn't do any scene if I didn't feel like I could do it. I could make it work with what we had. And sometimes, you have to get really creative. You have one wall and you have this, but Jack and I tried to make things 360. You should see the tenement set. That was really inspiring for the actors and I think some of the crew. And, you as somebody who, my first films, I was the camera guy, and I would think about the food that you have to make for the people. You don't want to get the heavy because then after lunch, they might slow down. I think about these things. So sometimes I talk to the craft service. What's for lunch today? People like Colin are smart. They don't eat heavy during lunch, but some people, they pig out, and it's just fine. We all need to eat, but you got to think about that type of stuff. So I think about these things and I think that I hope that my collaborators appreciate that because I do. I mean, I'm even thinking about the microphones that we're putting onto the people, and Joe, the sound guy, he was sound recorder. He appreciated that too. I'm thinking about sound.
I think it's hard to fully appreciate until people see the movie, and it's one of those things at time where you go, you feel like you're going to be happy with this, but inside there's also, you feel like a director who's kind of driven by equal parts, like ambition and passion and terror and suffering.
It's all in the movie.
Is that the case? Like, what is because I look at this movie and I think, man, he was right in the pocket the whole time. Every choice is right. The camera's in exactly the right place. Every performance is right. Every actor is cast properly. The detail, the even contrast that you got out of the film, the way it was shot, every moment works. There's no compromise. This guy had to have known every.
I did not pay him to say any of this. This is incredible. Honestly, it means so much. I mean, you're such an incredible director, and I know you're insane attention to detail. So this means a lot to me.
Did you feel like when you were going, like, this is working, I got it? Or were you, what was the day-to-day internal life like?
It's an interesting question. You never are satisfied. Ever. You're never satisfied. I mean, even when you have a great take, you're not satisfied. And because obviously in the edit, I'm one of the editors who I write with Ronald Bronstein and I edit with him, so you have to think as an editor as well. And you're like, okay, I have this piece, I have that piece, I can do this work. And I only am satisfied when I feel. That's it. When I'm feeling something. And I chase big feelings. My daughter, she talks about big feelings all the time. Daddy, I'm having big feelings. And I have big feelings. So I care about it. Like when Marty and Wally are dancing outside that car after that thing, that's so beautiful to me. The idea of connecting with a friend and feeling like you're the only two people on planet Earth, that's rare. That's awesome. That's human nature. So I definitely, when I'm there on set and like the actors are just being and they're feeling something and I'm feeling it with them, then I'm in those moments I'm having a big feeling. But I'm like, again, you're just so much going on, so many shots. How am I going to get 15 setups before lunch? You know what I mean? Like, how am I going to do that? And I was able to transfer, I think, of enough. The director's job is transferring enthusiasm. I think I had an impassioned crew. I think that they all felt what we were doing. I mean, you're showing up at Meadowlands. You recreated 1952 World Table Tennis Championship or the British Open, and you walk in, and it's something you've never seen before. It's like why Jack wanted to do the movies. Like, no one knows about this. Some of the table tennis people came in, these pros, they came in and one guy, he was like, looked so touched. So what's up? Well, how does this make you feel? He goes, it's dignified. He goes, this sport has a history and people don't think about that. And just the fact that it has a history means it's been around.
Just tell me we're about to wrap up. So I want to trot out my second viewing hypothesis. It's like, because as a first viewing, watching the movie, I just was totally baffled at like what the genesis of this is. The most creative, startling, arresting, breathtaking combination of ideas that seem to congeal so elegantly and arrive so perfectly and yet unexpectedly at this enormously cathartic and beautiful conclusion. And when I watched it the second time, I thought, okay, who the is making this movie? Like, how do you do this? And it's like, okay, here's a story about this young Jewish kid, and he's from New York, and he's full of equal parts talent and passion and enthusiasm to the point of compulsion and obsession. And he grows up in a world where the rules are calculated according to the rules of the kind of streets of New York and how people are navigating that. So by the time he's a young guy, he really feels that he's learned all he needs to know about navigating people and how that works. And he kind of gets out over his skis in the big world because he's got just as much, almost enough talent to back up the confidence, and gets out in the world and like thrusts himself and his gift out there, and then starts to come across. And by the way, is always caught between where he grew up, his family, and including you bringing investors in and navigating that. And he's as much a salesman and a hustler as he is a genius. And this is a story about the conviction that what you do and what you believe in and what you care about matters, and how sometimes that blinds you even to the people around you or the things that may be important. But the overarching need to pursue that, maybe at the risk of almost anything else in your life. And then the moment of, and the search for some dignity and some recognition that what you do and care about is meaningful, sort of then are colliding against the realities of the world. People that we hurt, people that we love, the scary people who are powerful, who can make, where sometimes our confidence and salesmanship is not enough. And then a different kind of ambition, which is simply to arrive at to be able to express oneself authentically, win or lose. All the things that takes out of you, and ultimately having to reconcile who you thought you were, who you wanted to be, who you really are, with who you're going to be and who you love and the life that you found yourself in, and then connecting kind of full circle with your basic humanity, family, and child. It sounds a lot like an autobiography to me in a kind of a beautiful way.
Well, I appreciate that. Filmmaking is very personal, absolutely. And, you know, it's a movie's, the world does not want a movie to exist. You can see that through the attrition that a production goes through, and worlds do not want dreams to exist. And fate is a very strange thing, because there's a fate to the planet. There's a fate. What human beings? What are we? We're parasites on here. You know, we are the aliens. You know what I mean? So all we have is our ambition. And you know, I think one thing that makes me, I still can cry watching this, which is pretty special. I didn't think so. And then earlier today I was watching. I was like, oh, shit, I'm crying again.
I cried today twice.
From the movie?
Yes, I cried with them. No, yes, twice. At the same place, in this movie twice. No, I thought we were going to talk personal stuff. But
the ending, you know, I think that what really grabs me with the ending is, you know, it's the confluence of all of the elements of the film, that feeling of that hollowness on the stage after he wins, and how he's looking around and he's lonely. The dream is very lonely, and that is something that was very personal to me. And you know, very soon after I finished Gems, I got married, I had my first daughter, had my second daughter, and you know, when he's looking into the soul of his child at the end, it's no longer about him on a deep level. It is still about him, but because he's thinking about himself. But it was his purpose to be a father. Was all of that was to go through life trying to rule the world, just to realize your world is this son, you know, and this daughter. You don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I like to think of it as a boy. Because I have two girls. So I'm like, oh, so it's not me. It's not me.
Exactly. It's definitely not you. What it is, I think, ultimately is a movie that kind of asks and answers the question that, like, well, art is trying to get at, which is like, what does it mean to be alive?
Yeah.
And what does it mean to be myself in the deepest, honest sense, and what I want with then, you know, what the world is around me and what's ultimately going to mean something. And I think that's beautiful and extraordinary is you took all those gifts and all that work and brought together all these artists and kind of conducted them and found an answer to that's felt by a feeling at the end. This movie, I watched it and I thought, like, it did what I think all great art does. I watched it and I was like, I have to be a better artist, and I gotta do something like this. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's beautiful. I tip my hat.
Thank you.
I think you're extraordinary.
Thanks for listening to another DGA Q&A. The Director's Cut is available wherever you listen to podcasts. And please share, subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America